Netflix have done it again. Earlier this week, Netflix dropped what I think is easily the best MMA combat sports show ever made. Hello everyone, I'm Finn. Welcome back to Finn Films. Join me today as we discuss what I think is possibly the best MMA show, the best martial arts combat sports show ever made. The French Netflix series, The Cage. Now, those of you who have watched or been around my channel since the early days know that I am a massive fan of martial arts and combat sports. I've been doing Muay Thai and boxing for years now, but ever since I was really a young kid, ever since I can remember, I was always drawn to martial arts and combat sports, whether it was through movies like Karate Kid, martial arts classics like Way of the Dragon, or hard-hitting martial arts anime like Dragon Ball Z, Hajime no Ippo, or Baki. I've always been in love with martial arts media. Recently though, Netflix dropped a new hard-hitting dramatic MMA series, which I do genuinely believe is probably the most legit and best combat sports piece of media that I have ever seen. The Cage follows the story of a young up-and-coming French MMA fighter, Taylor, as his career takes a dramatic turn after he knocks out this asshole violent champion in a sparring match. Now, there have been plenty of shows and movies made surrounding and involving MMA since the show has kind of come into the mainstream in the mid-2000s. Up until now, though, I would say that a movie like Warrior featuring Tom Hardy is probably the best of these MMA kind of UFC-esque films, as not only does it have a compelling dramatic story, I mean, come on, it's Tom Hardy, but it is also it also really does justice to the sport of MMA and to martial arts. I think that's really the issue sometimes with certain sports movies, making a movie that involves sports while still doing justice to the sport itself, making the sport scenes feel legit. I think that's why a movie like Rocky holds up so well 50 years later. Not only are the Rocky films super inspirational, but they also do justice to the sport of boxing, capturing it in a way that feels believable and legit. This is where Netflix The Cage excels extremely well, in showing the sport of MMA and martial arts in the most realist sense possible, from the training camps to the techniques to the politics of the fight game, and of course, the actual fights themselves. The Cage is probably the first MMA series or movie really that I think I've seen that really was made with the hardcore MMA UFC fan base in mind. Don't get me wrong, you don't have to be a hardcore diehard fan of MMA to enjoy this show, but a lot of the kind of small details and intricacies of the show that I think they do really well that make the show so great will be lost on you if you were not a fan of MMA and combat sports. So the show primarily focuses around this feud between our main character, Taylor, played by former professional dancer Melvin Boomer, and the violent asshole champion Ibrahim, played by French rapper Bosch. Taylor is a young and up-and-comer amateur MMA fighter who has gone all in on becoming a professional fighter to provide for his family. Taylor's story is a real kind of classic story in the combat sports world. Many of the most successful combat sports athletes out there, from Mike Tyson to you name it and who's who in the MMA world, have come from real desperate situations where fighting was literally the only option in the hope for a better life. Taylor is talented and motivated, having won all of his amateur fights so far, but he is unable to get any attention from the head coach at his MMA gym, who seems to only have time for the professional fighters in said gym. The coach viewing his champion fighter as his ticket to the big time, his ticket to the UFC. We see that Taylor is genuinely contemplating quitting his MMA dream, where one day, his entire life changes. On that day, the coach's former star pupil, the champion of the French circuit, Ibrahim, shows up at his former gym with entourage and cameraman in tow to make a scene. We learn that Ibrahim has a real reputation for doing this. He has a reputation for showing up at rival gyms and for being extremely violent, being so violent in sparring matches that oftentimes guys get legitimately hurt. Ibrahim is here at his former gym to mock and humiliate his former coach, asking if there is anyone man enough here to spar with him. This idea and kind of trope goes back to like classic martial arts dojos, this like mentality where it was semi-commonplace for like martial artists, masters of their craft to show up at rival dojos and then challenge other people to a fight to prove that their martial arts are superior, that their dojo is the top dojo. When it looks like no one is going to step up and take Ibrahim's challenge, suddenly out of nowhere our main protagonist, Taylor, a no-name fighter, steps forward to take this challenge. This moment will be the moment that changes Taylor's entire life and his career trajectory, as in this moment, to everyone's surprise, he actually manages to knock out the champion Ibrahim, albeit after receiving an ass beating for most of the sparring match. The knockout is posted to social media and starts going completely viral. I mean, imagine if, like, in our world, some young no-name fighter knocked out someone like Conor McGregor in a sparring match. Yeah, that clip would definitely be making the rounds on Twitter. This is where we get our first UFC cameo in this show, as Taylor decides to cash in on his 10 minutes of fame by going on former interim UFC heavyweight champion Ciryl Gane's podcast, and then later showing up on the desk at UFC Paris to challenge Ibrahim to a fight. Ibrahim, of course, declining to fight Taylor, as why would he fight a no-name like Taylor when he has everything to lose? Taylor, though, has made his point. He has issued a challenge, and more importantly, he has put himself into the media's zeitgeist. And to our shock, we learn that he has been contacted by UFC legend and arguably the GOAT of MMA, George St. Pierre, who has actually told Taylor to do all of this publicity stunt up until this point. GSP then flying Taylor out to Montreal to train him personally, and then post it all on social media to put pressure on Ibrahim to take the fight. Social media has really been like a major game changer, like in the fight game, in the combat sports game, as much of the back and forth between fighters and the genesis of many MMA fights as well as boxing fights literally come from spats on social media, and I think that The Cage does a really good job in capturing this kind of like aspect of like the modern combat sports world. Arguably though, I think that the best thing about this show is how legit they depict combat sports and MMA. I'm talking every move, every technique, every fight sequence is straight up legit. To me, when you're making a martial arts or combat sports like piece of media, this is like the most important thing. The most important thing is making the show feel real. That's why I love anime like Hajime no Ippo, Garudan, and Baki. That's why they are so good, because even though they are over the top and insane in all of like the kind of anime fashions, at their core they are extremely legit and extremely accurate when it comes to depicting real martial arts, real combat sports. The Cage has honestly some of the most legit and best fight sequences I have ever seen of any depiction of any combat sports across all media. Seriously, when I was watching this show, I had to constantly remind myself that I was watching a scripted Netflix show, as it really does feel like you are watching a like pay-per-view UFC like event. I really want to give some credit to Melvin Boomer, the actor that plays our main character Taylor, as he is a young, fresh French actor who has a background in professional dance and basically zero experience in combat sports and MMA. But you would legit though never know that from watching this series. While Melvin may have never trained in MMA prior to the filming of The Cage, MMA has been an integral part of Melvin's entire life. You see, Melvin revealed in an interview that his father is actually an MMA fighter who started competing in France when MMA was still illegal. Melvin then had 6 months to prepare for this role, training every single day intensively with his father, as well as eating 7 meals a day to put on weight and muscle to make himself feel and seem more legit for the role. And wow, did that training pay off. Of course, it does help when you have a background in dancing and your father is a professional MMA fighter and you are young and athletic, as well when you are surrounded by, cameo UFC GOATs like Ciryl Gane and GSP. But seriously though, I have to tip my hat to Melvin here. You would have no idea that this kid had no combat sports experience at all from watching this show. He really did put the time and the work in, and the result is a super credible performance of a very young, aspiring MMA fighter. On top of all of this, this show is made even more legit by cameo appearances of UFC legends. I already mentioned Ciryl Gane and GSP, who make several appearances throughout this show, GSP actually being a pretty important important character in the show. But on top of these two, we also see cameo appearances from MMA journalist Ariel Helwani, and possibly most shocking of all, a cameo appearance from the legend himself, the heavyweight champion of the UFC at the time of recording, John Bones freaking Jones. The show isn't just like a one-trick pony for combat sports either. It's also got a really solid love story, a story of jealousy, of betrayal, a story of hardship and suffering and drama, and really just the human experience and the struggle of being a human in our modern reality. I think the show does an amazing job in capturing like the struggle and the journey that many aspiring like professional fighters go through to try and make their dreams a reality, to try and provide a better life for their family. And honestly, it's fucking fantastic. I highly recommend Netflix's The Cage, regardless if you are an MMA, a combat sports fan or not. Legit, this is one of the best combat sports, one of the best like pieces of martial arts media I think I've ever seen. As always, guys, with these sorts of videos, these are just my thoughts and opinions, so feel free to let me know yours in the comment section down below. Have you seen The Cage? What did you think of it? Do you think it is the best combat sports piece of media ever made? Let me know in the comment section. As always, guys, if you did enjoy this video or learn something new, please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, as that is the easiest way to help support me, and it really does go a long way in helping to put these videos into the algorithm. If you did enjoy this video, then why don't you check out some of my other videos on screen now, and as always, I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Until next time, peace, love, adieu.